Okay, so here is the fundamentals to music theory. This guide is going to be what I learned in my experience on the easy way of learning music theory. So I spent years being self-taught. I did have a few lessons as well, going through books with some guitar notation there as well. I actually never learned to read it at that point. I just memorized the song and used the shape as a guideline to actually play the tracks. Now, what I want to talk to you guys about is how to actually understand music, and it all comes from this concept that there are only 12 notes. So 12 notes in music. All the music we hear, all the Western music we hear is made up of only 12 notes. And it's a combination of different patterns. That's where we get our harmony, our chords, and our different scales from. The first thing we want to look at is understanding that there are only 12 notes. What makes it different is the distance between the notes, and this is what we call an interval. That's it really. If we change the interval, we change the sound, the relationship between the two notes, and create what we call harmony. So we measure intervals in tones and semitones. Now, a semitone is the same as just going up one fret. So if you start on the first fret on the 4th string and you go up one fret, that's a semitone. And a tone is essentially going up 2 frets. So you could start on the 1st fret, you go up to the 3rd fret, there's your tone. So I've actually got a chart that will show you all the different intervals. There's 12 notes, so the distance between the notes gets to 12 and then it repeats round again. So here is the simple one. I'll pop it either on screen as well or in a link in the description for you guys to download. So if we move one semitone, it would be an augmented first or minor second. If we move 2 semitones, it would be what we call a major second. If we move 3 semitones, it would be a minor third. If we move 4 semitones, it would be a major third. 5 semitones, perfect fourth. 6 semitones, tritone, flat 5 or sharp 4, all names for the same thing. 7 semitones, perfect 5th. 8 semitones, augmented 5th or minor 6th. 9 semitones will be a major 6th. 10 semitones, minor 7th. 11 semitones, major 7th. And then 12 semitones, octave. So the same note as before. Now, the key is to learn to recognize the sounds of these intervals. If you can recognize the sounds, then you're halfway away. But it's important to know that everything we go on from this point will build on the fact that all the relationships between these notes come from this chart here. Learning the musical alphabet. We now know that music only consists of 12 notes, and the distance between these notes creates the harmony that we hear. Now we need to know what these 12 notes are, okay? It sounds simple enough again, but this is something I didn't know. When I started music, I'd probably been playing for a few years, but I did not know where the musical alphabet stopped. I knew there was an A, I knew there was a G, I wasn't sure if there was a H or K or not. And I definitely had no idea where the sharps or flats were, or what even it meant to have a sharp or flat note. I'll pop here a copy of the 12 notes that we have. We have A, we then have A sharp or B flat, we have B, we have C, we then have C sharp or D flat, we have D, we have D sharp or E flat, E, we have F, we have F sharp or G flat, we have G, then we have G sharp or A flat. Now, the easy way to remember the sharps is to just remember there is no sharp or flat note between B and C and between E and F. Between all the other notes, there will be a sharp or flat. So we're now about to get into what I like to call the mother scale. This is going to be the most important groupings of notes that you're ever going to learn. This is the foundations of all the music that we're going to hear. So in the Western world. So anything else you hear, you can relate or refer back to the major scale in order to understand it and explain it. If you've ever wondered how a major scale is made, you're about to find out. Now, all a scale is a combination of intervals in a specific pattern. One way I like to view it is like a recipe for a cake. You throw in these ingredients, you're gonna get a chocolate cake. Throw in another set of ingredients, you're gonna get Victoria sponge, right? So that is our different scales. It's just a collection of different intervals put together, which will make a lot more sense when we throw it on the instrument. Understanding this is the key to being able to play any song in any key. Now this is effectively where we want to go. When you understand the major scale, understand the chords involved and how the different chords and chord types relate to it, you'll be able to take a song you hear and effectively play it in any key. It will all make sense because it's just a group of patterns. You change the pattern, start from a different place, same pattern. So the major scale is made up of 7 notes. It's the most commonly used scale in our music, and for this reason I like to call it the mother scale. The formula is root note, major second interval, major third interval, perfect fourth interval, perfect fifth interval, major sixth and major seventh, and then you're back to the root again. Right, so that's why it was so vital that we understand the intervals first, because if you've seen this before, if you heard me talk before, I definitely talk about going through it in a particular order, which at first may seem longer, but I guarantee you it will save loads of time. Start with the intervals, understanding, just recognizing what the intervals are. So now we get to the scale. Cool, it's easy. We've got a root note, we've got a major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and then your octave. So now you can start applying that to whatever your instrument is. You can take your root note, find the major second, the major third, the perfect fourth, the perfect fifth, etc., and work out different ways of playing it. Using the chart below, let's start in the key of C. Using the table and the major scale formula of root notes, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and octave, now we can work out what a C major scale is. So if we start on C, go up a major second, which is 2 semitones, we get to D. Then we go up a major third from C, which is the root note, which takes us to E. Right, and you can literally count it along. You can count your way up. It goes back round in a circle. So if you complete the scale all the way out, you end up with C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So the key of C, which is why it's most commonly used a lot of the time, has no sharps or flats, which is one of the easiest ones to understand. But if you do this in the key of F, which you'll see in the table below as well, where I've actually gone through in advance and shown you guys what the intervals add up to, you can see that for the perfect fourth we get a B flat. Right? The pattern's all the same, it's just the order of the notes that has changed. Right? It's still root note, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, octave, but now because we've changed the starting note, it means that some of the notes may fall on a sharp or flat note. How do I know what chord to play? Understanding chords is going to be the game changer now. So now we've got a good idea of the major scale, and show you guys where the chords come from and how a chord is made. Understanding this really changed the game for me and opened up my playing and a world of opportunities for me in what I could see is possible in music. Understanding how chords work changed the game for me. When I learnt why, for example, the 6th chord of a major scale is a minor chord, everything else just seems to make so much more sense. To make basic chords, all you do is you take the scale, so we're using our major scale, the mother scale, and you're going to take one note, skip the next note along, and take the next note, skip the next note along, take the next note. So for a 3-note chord, you take one note, miss a note, take the next note, miss a note, take a note. There's your chord, right there. That's how chords are formed. And that's how you get chords that are what we call diatonic, which just means they fit in with the music essentially. They sound right. Make sure you go through this in order and making sure you've got a firm understanding of each area before you move on. Or if you move on to the next area and you're still not sure, jump back to the area before, or whichever part of it is that you're struggling in, and go over it to make sure that you can get a better idea of what's going on. So no matter what note you start on, whatever the chord, the root note of the scale is, the major scale, the chords will always follow this pattern. The first note of the major scale will have a major 7 chord. The second note will have a minor 7 chord. Third note will have a minor 7 chord. The fourth note will have a major 7 chord. Fifth note will have a dominant chord, which is root, third, fifth, flat 7. The sixth note will have a minor 7 chord. Seventh note will have a half diminished chord, which is root note, flat third, perfect fifth, and flat 7. And then you're back to the octave, which is just a major 7 chord again. I've actually dug out another chart for you guys, and that will be dropped in below. It shows you all the triads, so 3-note chords for all the major scales out there. So now you've actually got a table which will tell you what the chords are. This is the root of everything that you're going to do through most of your music now. And when you start veering off into other scales and other areas of theory as well, you can always relate it back to this. Okay, so this is why this course is the foundations of everything that you're going to do. Another way to remember what the chords are in a major scale, along with each note, so 7 notes in a major scale, which means there are 7 chords that you can use, and they follow this order: major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, or major 7, minor 7, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, half diminished. Sing it in your sleep. How to play any song in any key. So now we're going to look at what the gospel guys have been doing for a long time, and the jazz cats do it as well. It's what we call the number system. Okay, so this is where the magic happens. Now that we know the intervals, the major scale, and the chords of the major scale, it's time to apply them to music. The number system allows us to make the chord into a number. The number simply tells us which note of the scale we're starting that chord on. A 2-5-1 in the key of C will be D, G, and C. Now remember the major scale chord formulas, so we know that the second note of the major scale has a minor 7 chords attached to it. We know that the fifth note has a dominant 7 chord attached to it, and we know that the first note of the chord is a major 7 chord. So this would work out as being a D minor 7, G dominant 7, and C major 7. Okay, but we can shorthand this. We don't have to write this all out. Instead, we can write this as a 2-5-1. Pop it here as well. So we can write this as a 2-5-1. Now, the benefit of doing this is that it doesn't matter what key you're in.